Hi, this is Mark Coker. I'm the founder of Smashwords, and I'd like to welcome you to my video. In some of my previous videos, I talked about a concept that I refer to as viral catalyst. I asked you to imagine your book as an amorphous blob, and attached to that amorphous blob are dozens of dials, levers, and buttons that you can twist, turn, and tweak to make your book more available, more accessible, and more desirable to readers. So in this video today, we're going to look at some of those potential viral catalysts. So in this video, you're going to learn, do readers prefer shorter books or longer books? Do shorter book titles sell better than longer book titles? What does the sales distribution curve look like for self-published ebooks? Is everyone selling really well, or is everyone selling really poorly? What are some of the most common price points for self-published ebooks? Which price sells the most copies? What price is going to earn you the most money? What price is going to help you build your platform the fastest? And a whole bunch of other questions. So this video is for any author anywhere in the world and aspiring authors. So I hope you enjoy it, and let's get started. First, you're probably wondering who I am. This is me. That's what I look like. So I'll start off the video by giving you some background on myself and on Smashwords. It'll provide you some important context as we get into the presentation. If you've watched some of my other presentations, you've heard some of this information already. The Smashwords story starts with this lovely woman here. This is Leslie Ann, my wife. When I met her 12 years ago, she was a former reporter for Soap Opera Weekly magazine. She just left her job there. And her job at Soap Opera Weekly was to interview soap opera actors and learn what's going on with their shows. When she started telling me about this unusual job, she was telling me how the actors were more crazy behind the camera than they were in front of the camera. So if you've ever watched a soap opera, that's pretty interesting. I suggested she write a book about it. She suggested we write a book together, and that's what we did. So in 2002, we decided to write a satire on the daytime television soap opera industry. This is the book that we wrote. After writing the first draft and then doing dozens of revisions and hiring professional editors and copy editors and doing multiple beta reader rounds, we whipped the book into shape, shopped it around to agents, and we were lucky enough to get represented by one of the top agencies in New York City. For 2 years, they shopped the book around to all the major publishers of commercial women's fiction, and for 2 years, they got nothing but rejection. Publishers did not want to take a risk on our book because previous soap opera themed novels had not performed well in the marketplace. So, as you might imagine, it was a really frustrating experience after having spent years of our lives on this book, a book that we felt great passion for. To have a publisher, all of these publishers, just slam the door in our faces was an immense disappointment. And I thought about, what are our options here? Now, most writers, when they're faced with this rejection, most writers in the past who were faced with this rejection had no choice but to give up. And that's pretty sad that people are going to their graves with books unpublished. I decided I wanted to do something about it. I studied the industry. I came at this problem from a background of 20 years in technology marketing and entrepreneurship. I really didn't know very much about publishing until we just fell into it here. But I started looking at the business of publishing, and I came to the conclusion that the publishing industry was broken. I decided it was failing to serve authors, readers, and also, more importantly, failing to serve the future of books. I felt like publishers were squandering the true potential of books. They had business models at the time that were very print-centric. Print publishing is very expensive, it's very inefficient, it's very difficult to reach readers around the world with bits of paper and glue. It's expensive to produce those books, it's expensive to distribute them, and it's expensive for readers to purchase them. I decided, after looking at, how the business worked, that it was also really clear that publishers are really in the business of selling books. They're not really in the business of publishing books. The publishing part is just the dirty business that's the means to the ends of selling books. Publishers are looking to acquire books that they think have the greatest commercial potential. Now, I don't blame them for this. Publishers are running a business and they need to sell books. So they're looking to acquire books that have the greatest potential, and then they're going to invest their financial resources, their talent, and their relationships and expertise into that book, so that hopefully that book can be as successful as possible. But publishers are unwilling and disinterested and unable to take a risk on every single author. So as a result, they're rejecting hundreds of thousands of books every single year simply because they don't see commercial potential. They're rejecting most authors. Now, in the past, when authors were rejected, they had very little option other than to curl up in a fetal position and give up. Self-publishing has been around for over 30 years. Dan Poynter has been writing about the subject for a long time. But print self-publishing was an unsatisfactory option because without access to retail distribution, without access to retail bookstores, a self-published book in print is not going to sell well. Now, what publishers do is they apply all their talent to make their best guess of which books are worth acquiring. They're guessing what readers want to buy. But in the end, they're just throwing spaghetti against the wall. They're making their best guess. They're acquiring books that they think have potential. 12 to 18 months later, they're publishing those books, distributing those books out to retailers, and then they wait for readers to respond. Most books published by publishers flop. So it means that publishers are making a lot of bad guesses, and they're rejecting thousands of books that truly do have commercial potential, but they're not giving them a chance because they don't see the commercial potential. Furthermore, I think there's a problem here when we've got books that are, when we start valuing books based on their sales, I think we're devaluing books. I think books are worth more than money. I think they're worth more than dollars. I think every book in the world, whether it has a potential audience of one reader or a million readers, I think every book has a right to be published. So the big problem that authors were facing, back in the dark ages of publishing prior to 5 years ago, is that publishers controlled the printing press, they controlled the access to distribution, and they controlled and possessed all of the knowledge necessary to be a professional publisher. So I see these three things as the three legs to the professional publishing stool. You need a printing press, you need distribution to retailers, and you need the knowledge to become a professional publisher. You need to understand the best practices. So publishers had a monopoly on all these things. So I imagined that, I started thinking, wouldn't it be cool if every writer in the world who wanted to publish a book could publish a book? So I imagined a publishing revolution where writers would rise up and take control. A revolution where the power in publishing would transfer from publishers to writers, where it belongs. So I realized that writers needed the tools for this revolution. They needed the printing press, they needed the access to distribution, and they needed the knowledge to become a professional publisher. And so I founded a company to provide these three things. Um, that company is Smashwords. So we launched the business in 2008. Smashwords is a free ebook publishing and distribution platform. We provide free ebook conversion. That's the printing press. It's in the cloud. It's available to anyone at no cost. Starting in 2009, we opened up distribution to some of the major ebook retailers. Ebook retailers that previously were not accessible to self-published authors. Retailers like Barnes & Noble and Sony. We were the first ones to open them up to self-published ebooks. And then we have spent a lot of time developing a library of best practices resources. I've written 3 books about ebook publishing, and we'll talk about some of those later. And this video is an example of our attempt to share the secrets of successful publishing and to share insight to help you as an author become more successful at achieving your dreams and reaching readers. Here's a chart that shows what's happened at Smashwords since we launched. So in 2008, we published 140 books from about 90 authors. We were really thrilled that we published so many books, but it wasn't until the next year that things really started taking off, and we did 6,000 books the next year, and you can see from the graph how quickly things have grown. Today, as I record this video in late September 2013, we're publishing over 250,000 books from over 60,000 authors around the world. It's really been an amazing ride, and it's been incredible fun doing this. It's been so much fun seeing so many of our authors achieve incredible commercial success, and also just achieve the success of publishing a book, having that opportunity to reach readers. So, if you're a Smashwords author and listening to this video, I thank you for allowing us to join you on this incredible journey. I think we're just getting started. Here's how Smashwords works if you're not familiar with Smashwords. You sign up for a free account. You download the Smashwords Style Guide. It tells you how to format your book as an ebook. You upload that Microsoft Word document to Smashwords. Our conversion system automatically converts it into multiple ebook formats, makes the book available for sale on our homepage within 5 minutes at a price that you set. Then we distribute the book to multiple major retailers, and we pay you 85% of the net, approximately. That works out to about 60% of the list price if your book is selling through the major retailers that we're serving, and it ranges from 60 to 80% of the list price if you're selling the book at the Smashwords store. So here's a partial list of some of the retailers that we distribute to. There's the Apple iBookstore. They're growing very quickly. Sony, Barnes & Noble, Kobo, Diesel is a smaller independent ebook store. Smashwords, although our authors earn over 90% of their income distributing to our retailers, we also operate a small retail store, and so you certainly want to be there. Of course, there's Amazon. We distribute a small number of titles to Amazon, but not the entire catalog. And here's some other retailers. So let's get started with a video, now that we've got that background information out of the way. Now, this video is based on the second annual Smashwords Survey. We published the survey in May 2013, and we first released it at the RT Book Lovers Convention in Kansas City. If you want to read the original blog post about the release of this survey, you can Google Smashwords Survey, or you can visit bit.ly/Smash Survey 13. Now, last year's survey, the first annual iteration of this survey, published in April 2012. After the presentation, I uploaded the presentation to SlideShare, and since that time, it's received almost 90,000 views. So it's been pretty incredible how the indie author community has embraced this survey. And as I record this video in September, just a few months after publishing and uploading the 2013 survey to SlideShare, it's already approaching this number. So that's pretty cool. Thank you all for taking the time to learn about these numbers. So one of the goals of this survey is that we're in search of viral catalysts. So in my previous videos, I mentioned, I introduced the term viral catalyst. Let's talk about what a viral catalyst is. We talk about it in the Secrets to eBook Publishing Success book. A viral catalyst is anything that makes your book more available, more accessible, more desirable to readers, and more enjoyable to readers. So at the start of this talk, I asked you to imagine your book as an amorphous blob, and attached to it are all these dials and levers and buttons that you can twist, turn, and tweak. So many writers make the mistake of thinking that there's one single magic bullet, just one thing that they need to do. Everyone's searching for that one thing they need to do that will propel their book into the bestseller lists. And the truth of the matter is that there are really dozens of things that you have to do, and you have to do well, and you need to avoid making mistakes. And these things that you do right are the viral catalysts. These are the things that make your book more appealing to readers and more likely to be propelled by reader word of mouth. The goal is to create a book that causes readers to go, wow. If you write a wow book, if you can develop a passionate readership where your readers aren't just fans but they're super fans, and where they're evangelizing your books to all of their friends and family, then you can achieve viral word of mouth. And so in this study, we're going to look at, we're going to take an unusual approach to identifying new viral catalysts. So useful and not so useful discoveries, I believe, start with very simple questions. So we asked some questions to our data. We looked at 11 months of sales data of Smashwords books. We looked, and this is data drawn from 120,000 Smashwords books, which were distributed across all the major retailers that I mentioned earlier. So we aggregated all the sales data across these retailers. It represented over $12 million in global ebook sales during this 11-month period. So we asked questions of the data to try to determine potential clues of new and interesting viral catalysts that could help better inform your publishing strategy. So again, those are some of the retailers that participated in this. Actually, they didn't participate. We drew the data from our sales at these retailers. So here's one of the first of the questions. How many books sell well? This is a big question we get all the time. If I self-publish a book, how many copies am I going to sell? And here are some of the key findings. Most books don't sell well, and this should not be a surprise. Most traditionally published books don't sell well, and most self-published books don't sell well. The sales distribution curve is characterized by what is known as a power curve, and I'll show you here on this slide. So in a power curve, this is what it looks like. You've got a very small number of titles that are selling really well. And then you've got a lot of titles that sell less well. Now, because a very few titles sell fabulously well, it's causing this curve to look like, only the first couple thousand only a couple thousand authors are selling anything and everyone else is selling nothing. And that's not really the case, because this tends to exaggerate. Um, about half of the sales that we generate, that our authors generate, go to the top 1,000 best-selling books. And the other half of the sales, the other 50%, go to books that are, beyond, in this long tail of the curve. Let's take a closer look at the curve. And what we see here, just looking at a slice of the top 500 best-selling titles at Smashwords during this period of time. And what you see here is that the number one best-selling title sold 37 times more than the number 500 title down here. Excuse me. And this title here, this author at number 500, sold enough that they would be very pleased. They're very pleased. These authors are all very happy. They're selling quite a bit. Now, an important takeaway from this power curve, and we could look at any slice along the curve as we go to the right here. An important takeaway is that this provides a really strong conceptual framework for you as an author as you embark on your publishing adventure here. It's important to realize that when you self-publish an ebook, your book is immortal and your book can evolve over time. As I talked about in some of the previous videos, if you decide that your cover image isn't making the appropriate promise to your readers, if it's not resonating with your target readers, at Smashwords you can just upload a new cover image and then we'll send that out to all the retailers. And in the previous videos, I shared how I shared the example of R.L. Matthewson, where she simply changed the cover image and it propelled her into the bestseller lists and propelled her onto the New York Times bestseller list. That's an example of how you can twist, turn, and tweak the viral catalysts to make your book more available, more accessible, more desirable to readers. And so every time that you're twisting, turning, and tweaking one of these viral catalysts, whether we're talking about the cover image, your book description, the quality of the inside of your book, you're making your book more desirable to readers, and you start moving to the left along the sales distribution curve. Now what you see here, take a look at how the curve drops off like this. We see that the number one title is selling 37 times more than this, and the number 50 title is selling 7 times more than this. As you move up this curve, you experience exponential growth in sales. Here's another way of looking at it. At several of the largest retailers, if your book is ranked the number one seller in the store, you're probably selling somewhere around 2,000 copies a day. If you're ranked the number 10 bestseller, you might only be selling 500 copies a day. So as you drop down this curve, as you drop in sales rank at a retailer, your sales drop off very quickly. So it means that as you tweak your viral catalysts, as you improve and evolve your book, the goal is to move up to the left side of this curve. If you're way out here at 500, or if you're ranked 10,000, you want to do things that take you in this direction of the curve. That's how you become a bestseller. And as I mentioned, it's not just one single thing that you can do to move up the curve. You really need to think of this in terms of dozens of things that you need to do properly. You need to have a great cover. You need to have a good price. You need to have good marketing. You need to have a super fabulous book. You need to have great distribution. All of these things. So keep this sales curve in mind as we go through this presentation. We're looking for viral catalysts that give you a little bit of an advantage, that can move you a little bit step by step up the curve. So this was kind of a fun question. One of the neat things about ebook self-publishing is that you, the author, are in total control of your book. At Smashwords, we let you upload your book, one file to Smashwords. We distribute it to multiple retailers. From your Smashwords dashboard, we give you total control of your book. You can change your price anytime. You can update your cover at any time. You can update your book description. You have total control. Some authors go a little bit crazy with this total control, and they make, they have the ability to change the price 50 times a day if they want. Now that's a little bit of an extreme. Most authors don't do that. But I wanted to examine, I wanted to learn, do authors who are changing their prices more frequently, are they selling more books? And so the findings were kind of interesting. The impact of frequent price changes was not completely clear-cut. There seems to be a slight advantage. So in this chart here, we look at the top 10 bestsellers, the top 50, top 100, top 50, and then a couple slices. So this is title 1 through 10, 1 through 50, 1 through 100. And 1.0 is kind of the average of what people are selling. Well, actually, what I did is I normalized the data so that 1.0 is what people who are in the top 10, the number of times that they're changing their prices. And what you see here is that people who change their price once over the course of this 11-month survey were in the top 10. I should phrase that differently so I don't confuse you. The top 10 bestsellers on average changed the price once. The top 50 bestsellers on average changed the price about once, 0.98. And as we go down the sales rank curve, we see that these folks were changing the price less frequently. When we look out here, this is kind of no man's land. 50,000 to 51,000 sales rank, or 100,000. These books aren't selling well. These authors in this band, particularly 50 to 51,000, only changed their. For every 2 authors in this band, there was only 1 price change during that period. Now, does this mean that if you change your price at least once during the year, that you're going to sell more? At first glance, that's what this looks like, but I think there's more to it than that. I think what this really means is that authors who are changing their prices are probably doing promotions around their books. So they're probably paying more attention to their books and marketing them more. Authors out here are possibly more likely to just be neglecting their books and ignoring their books. So I think this chart is interesting, but you shouldn't bet the bank on it. The next question. Do longer book titles do better than shorter book titles? Or is it the other way around? So here, we're looking at the number of characters in the book title. If your title is Jane's Memoir, you can count the characters that are in that title. So we looked at the top 10 bestsellers, and the average character count was 24.6. Then we look at the top 1 through 50, the average character count was a little bit higher. 25 for the top 100, and then the top 500. So as we go further out the sales distribution curve where titles aren't selling so well, we see 31, and then we look at a specific slice titles 50,000 through 51,000 for a reference point, and we see it's like that. So there appears to be a slight advantage to a shorter book title as measured by character count. Now, we can probably think of a couple reasons for why this might be the case. A shorter title is easier for the prospective reader to read, to understand, and to comprehend. So I think anything that eliminates friction, that gets in the way of the reader understanding your book, sampling your book, that helps. And so a short title potentially makes a faster, more effort-free connection with the reader, especially as you look at the difference here. But it's not a significant difference. And I would also caution you that this is a caution I'll give you for all of the findings in our study here. Don't go change your book simply because you see a slide like this in my survey that says that a shorter title might work better than a longer title. Don't do that. You should choose a title that works best for your book. But if you have two titles that you love equally the same, and one is shorter and one is longer, then this might help inform your decision. It's something to think about. Now, next we looked at the data a little bit differently. We looked at the number of words rather than the number of characters. And, again, looking at the complete set of data, it does appear that shorter titles, fewer words, have some advantage over titles that have more words in the title. But it's not huge. So again, just keep this in the back of your mind. Don't bet the bank on it. So this one was kind of fun, and this was new to the survey this year. Your book description. When you upload a book to Smashwords, you write in a book description. With an ebook, the book description is the equivalent to a print book's, back page, the back cover, the marketing copy. So should you do short copy or long copy? And this is what we found. There appears to be a slight advantage to a longer word count for your book description. But I don't have a high degree of confidence in the findings here. They're kind of all over the map. You see the top 10 titles, and now when we're looking at 10 titles, keep in mind that is not a statistically significant sample size. There's a lot of, we're just not looking at very many titles, so it could be all over the map. As we increase the sample size to the top 50, top 100, you see it's kind of all over the map. So I wouldn't read too much into this. But one thing that is interesting is that the book descriptions tend to be under 200 words, which isn't too long. So if ebooks are immortal, how do sales develop over time? So for this part of the study, we looked specifically at some titles that were listed at the Apple iBookstore. And one of the things that we see is that books develop differently over time. Sales go up and they go down based on various factors. There's randomness involved, luck, author promotions, the release of new titles, whether or not the retailer is promoting the book. But it is clear that a nonstop presence at the retailer is very important because you never know when the breakouts are going to happen. So here's a title at Apple. You can see that now the title had been out for over a year. It had a nice breakout here, then it dropped off, then another breakout, dropped off. Now you might think, okay, this book's pretty much done for. Its best days are behind it. But look at this. It's still selling 73 copies a day. All right, that's pretty cool. Back in the old days of print publishing, most of your sales would come in the very first weeks of your book's publication, and then the sales would drop off. And once they dropped off, retailers would pack up the books and ship them back to the publisher for a full refund and would effectively force you out of print at this point. And the sad part of being forced out of print is that you would miss these other potential spikes that come down the line. So when you publish an ebook, remember that the book's immortal. That book is like an annuity. It's going to earn money for you for many years. And so this author here has a great book that, even months after publication, when things have really slowed down, they're still selling quite a few copies of the book. Here's another one. You see kind of the same model. Big breakout early on after the release, and then it drops down. But this author here, still selling 100 copies a day at Apple, which is pretty cool. Now, I should point out that this is unusual. Most books don't sell 100 copies a day. Most self-published books sell very few titles, very few copies. There are some self-published books that don't sell a single copy in a full year. All right, here's another interesting chart. You see this massive breakout. Obviously, this was a highly anticipated title from this author. It became a worldwide bestseller. And then it dropped off, and then it spiked again, and then dropped off again. So these spikes can be caused by different things. Can be caused by a price promotion, can be caused by a merchandising promotion at the retailer, or it could be caused by the release of other titles, other new titles. What's not captured on this chart is right around here, the author released a new title, and it caused them to spike again. But this is a best-selling author, and every day they're selling a lot of copies at Apple. So here's another example of massive spike. At the right after the book goes on sale, they were selling close to 2,000 copies a day. They were probably number 1, number 2, number 3 store-wide at Apple for those days. And then everything dropped off really quickly. Now you might think the book is dead here, but they're still selling 59 copies a day. Here's a chart that I shared in one of my other videos. Whoa, what happened there? This title was doing very little for many months, and then the author was featured in a story in the Wall Street Journal and experienced this spike. Then it dropped off. That feature in the Wall Street Journal caught the attention of Apple's merchandising managers, and they did an email promotion for her here, and she shot straight to number 1 in the store and then dropped back off. This chart speaks to the importance of maintaining nonstop presence at every single retailer. If the author had looked at their sales early on in these early months at Apple and saw that they were not selling very well, it would have been a mistake for them to say, okay, I'm going to give up on this retailer and remove their books from that retailer. You never want to do that. You never want to remove your books from any retailer because you don't know when these spikes are going to happen. Here's another video I shared, or another example I shared in one of the other videos. This is Ruth Ann Norden. Her book was selling pretty well and then experienced a massive spike here when she released some new titles and changed pricing on some of her titles. But what's really interesting about this chart is that about a year before she broke out at Apple, she had already broken out at Kobo and was, a top 10, top 20 bestseller for multiple months at Kobo, even though she wasn't selling very much. at Apple, and even though Kobo is a much smaller retailer. So this is a good example of how different books break out at different times at different retailers for different reasons that you can't always identify. All right, this was a great question that we asked. And we asked this question last year as well. What's the ideal word count for ebooks? Now, when ebooks first came on the scene in a big way, it was a generally accepted opinion that shorter ebooks would do better because there was this idea that people would be reading their ebooks on the go, in the supermarket aisle lane, as they're commuting to work, and that when you're reading on a screen, you would be distracted by all kinds of other stimuli. And so the idea was that shorter books would do better than longer books for ebooks. And, I admit this is a view that I held very early on as well when I first started Smashwords. As it turns out, readers prefer longer books. So I'm sharing with you here the results from the 2012 study, and then I'll show you the 2013 study. So as you see along the bottom here, we're looking at the top 10, top 25. So this is 1 through 10, 1 through 25, 1 through 50, 1 through 1,000. And this is the word count. What you see here is that the best-selling titles in the top 10 have the highest word count. And as we start expanding the sample size to include titles that aren't selling as well, the average word count drops. So this is a really strong indicator that readers have preference for longer books. Now we're looking at the 2013 data, and we see the same general trend. So the top 10 best-selling books during this 11-month period averaged 118,000 words. The top 25 averaged 124,000 words. Top 50, 112,000. This is really interesting. Many of these books, back in the old days of print, if you took your book to a publisher, they'd say, this is too long. 124,000 words is too long. But that's not necessarily the case. Print publishers made book length decisions based on production expenses for print books. Too many pages caused too much printing, too much glue, too much weight, too much expense for the publisher. And it appears that publishers were guiding authors to publish books that were shorter than what readers really wanted to read. Now, as we look at the data, again, here we're looking out to the top 10,000, so titles ranked 1 through 10,000. Big drop-off in word count. The shorter the word count, the poorer the book sells. Okay, now we're going to look at the data a little bit differently. Rather than looking at, 1 through 10,000, we're going to look at slices of the data, and this is going to give us a better idea of how titles perform on average based on word count. So let's look all the way out here at the end. This is no man's land. This is where you don't want to be. These are titles ranked 100,000 to 105,000. These are the titles that are not selling. These are the titles that might only be selling 1 or 2 or 3 copies a year. On average, these poor selling titles only have 32,000 words. You look at the top 100, on average 115,000 words. So as we move along the sales rank chart, along the long tail, you see this definite trend. Shorter books don't sell as well as longer books. Now, as you look at this chart, I want you to think back to the power curve that I showed you at the very beginning of this presentation. Remember, the power curve is the curve that kind of, very few titles sell well, and you want to move your book to the left of the curve. The strong takeaway from this is that readers prefer longer books. And if you make the decision to write a shorter book, you're potentially undermining your potential here, because it's more difficult to hit the bestseller lists with a shorter book. So longer books are going to give you more advantage as you try to move up the power curve to the left. Now, although the evidence is fairly overwhelming here that longer books sell better, I'm going to give you a word of caution. There are no absolutes. This data is based on averages. We're looking at all types of books, fiction, nonfiction. Now, most of the sales at Smashwords are fiction, so this is heavily weighted toward fiction. But you don't want to see this data and say, okay, like let's say you finish your book, it's fully edited, and it comes in at 90,000 words. The wrong decision would be to try to bloat your book to write more words to make it longer. All right, don't do that. You should write your book to the length that that story or that book deserves. So if the ideal length for your story is 32,000 words, then write 32,000 words. Okay. Since I originally presented this presentation at a romance writers conference, I thought it'd be fun to look at the average word count for the top 60 best-selling romance books. And here's what we found. 112,000 words. Now, this is kind of a shocker, because most traditional publishers, if you go to them with a romance title and say, my title's 112,000 words, they're going to say, well, that's too long for romance. It should be, 60,000 or 70,000 or 80,000. So again, this shows that romance readers prefer longer words, or longer books. And to me, it kind of makes sense. If you're a super fabulous writer, the reader wants to be immersed in your story, in your world, for as long as possible. So a well-written story that's a longer story is more enjoyable than a well-written story that's short. So the next question, what do words cost readers? And I came up with a lot of these questions just kind of tongue-in-cheek. Some of these things were just silly. And as we've already seen in some of the findings are not very helpful, and some are very helpful. But you don't know until you ask the question. So we asked the question, what do words cost readers? So first we're going to look at the 2012 study, last year's study. We looked at the top 30 bestsellers at Smashwords, and we calculated how many cents the reader had to pay for every 1,000 words. What you see here, number 1 was at about 4 cents. Number 15 was at about 4 cents. The average is around 3 cents per word. But here's something really interesting. Out at number 30 is a title that's selling very well. If you're the number 30 bestseller at Smashwords, that's something to celebrate. You're doing really well. You're making a lot of money. This author here was selling every 1,000 words at 10 cents, a little over 10 cents. So this was an author who wrote a 27,000 word book that she was pricing at $2.99. So she's kind of an outlier here. And it's really interesting. This author was Bella Andre, one of the world's best-selling romance authors and one of the best-selling self-published ebook authors. My takeaway from this is that if you're writing great stories, don't underprice your book. There is opportunity for the best writers to be charging more for their books. Readers will pay more if the quality is there. All right, so now we're going to look at 2013. We looked at it a little bit differently. So we looked at the top 50, and rather than how many pennies to buy 1,000 words, we looked at how many words you get for a single penny. And you see it's kind of, it varies quite a bit. So here, 200 words for a penny. So these are the authors along here that are pricing their books higher, and these are the authors who are pricing their books lower. So this author here is giving away 1,000 words for a penny. I get the same takeaway from this chart that I do from the previous one. I think there's a lot of opportunity for the authors that are in this up around the top half here to increase their prices. If they wouldn't be in the top 50 if they weren't satisfying readers with their books. And so they probably have some pricing power to increase the price and still please their writers or please their fans. All right, the next question, and this is another great one. What price moves the most units? I get asked this question all the time. What should I price my book at? Well, the first piece of data we'll look at is some data from Apple. Free is the price that moves more units than any other price. So during the period of this survey, a free book at Apple experienced 91 times more downloads on average than a book priced at any other price. All right? So free is a super powerful platform builder. If you're looking to get your words in front of as many reader eyeballs as possible, you should utilize free as part of your pricing strategy. It's an incredibly powerful sales catalyst for series. If you write series, if you've got a 5-book series, make the first book free. Make it permanently free. And you're going to see the sales of your entire series increase. I've seen this happen so many times at Apple and at our other retailers. Authors will have a series of 5 or 6 books, and they might be selling moderately well. But when they price the first book in the series at free, it's just a powerful catalyst for the entire series, and they end up earning more money that way. I've seen authors catapult themselves into the bestseller lists with their series simply by starting the first title at free. So during the 12-month period preceding our survey, our authors experienced over 35 million free downloads at Apple. This is amazing exposure. Free is going to help you build your readership, build your fans, build your superfans faster than any other price. All right, now obviously we can't price all of our books at free, and I say we in the collective sense of we authors, because most writers would like to earn some well-deserved income from their books, from their publishing efforts. First, let's see what are the most common price points. Where are self-published authors pricing their books? So this is what the survey looked like in 2012, and then we'll look at 2013. What you see here is that the number one price point for 2012 was 99 cents. All right, and the second most popular price point was $2.99. And then you see how it drops off. So most self-published authors are kind of $4.99 and below. Let's see how it changed in 2013. 2013, look at that, 99 cents lost quite a bit of popularity. Again, here's the change. That's 2012, 2013. $2.99 became far and away the most popular price point, the most common price point for self-published authors. Again, let's look at that again. So that's 2012, 13, 12, 13. So this gives you an idea as you're making a decision of where to price your book, where you're going to fall among these different price points and what your competition is going to be within that price point. Okay, so now we're going to look at what impact does the price have on unit sales. Now, for the charts that I'm going to share that come along next, I normalized the data, and I'm just going to jump to the slide here. So what you see here is kind of the general trend, that as your price increases, your unit sales drop. And again, this is all on average. We normalize the data so that 1.0x equals the number of sales that authors or that books priced $10 and above get. So what this means is that if you look at this price band, $2.99, on average, a $2.99 ebook is going to sell 4 times as many copies as a $10 plus ebook. A $3.99 book, 4.3 times on average. So what are some of the big takeaways here? Well, first, look at the $1.99 price point. Major black hole here. Readers are apparently not responding well to that $1.99 price point. I would encourage you to avoid that price point. We found the same thing in the 2012 data as we did in the 2013. It's kind of an interesting situation where if your book is priced today at $1.99, the data indicates, the odds indicate that if you increase the price from $1.99 to $2.99, on average you're going to sell twice as many units. Now that's counterintuitive. Increasing the price and you sell more? Well, why would that be? We can only guess. I have spoken with many readers, many customers at Smashwords, and I've spoken with many authors at Smashwords who have seen this same behavior. They increase the price and they sell more. Or for readers, if the price is too low, they're afraid to buy it. So some readers are hesitant to purchase books that are too cheap because there's a perception that a cheap book is a cheap book, that it's a lower quality book than a higher priced book. Now, I would caution you that that is not a universal feeling among ebook buyers, but for a segment of the audience, they feel that way. So that was interesting. Another really interesting thing here is that books priced at $3.99 during the period of our survey sold slightly more copies than books priced at $2.99. And again, we're just looking at the number of copies you sold. So this price point appears to have some advantage over this price point. Now, one possible reason is that the $3.99 price point had less competition than the $2.99 price point. But I don't think that alone explains it. It could be that some portion of the reading audience has decided that a $3.99 book is better than a $2.99 book. Or potentially the data could have been skewed by a few massive bestsellers at Smashwords that were priced at $3.99. I think the likely answer is that it's a combination of all of these factors. Now I know after we published the survey back in May, this made pretty big news that $3.99 might be the new $2.99 for indie ebooks. I know a lot of authors saw this data and, somewhat against my advice, changed their prices to $3.99. So when we look at the distribution curve, the number of titles in each price band in 2014, when we do the survey next, we might find that this bar here for $3.99 went way up. And that's kind of the danger now in this survey. So many authors are following this survey and making decisions based on this survey that it has the potential of, distorting the efficacy of some of these tactics. So I'll just throw that out there as a warning. Okay, so, but in general, you see this general trend: higher prices sell fewer units than lower prices. So now let's identify which prices earn the author the greatest amount of money. Because if we go back to this chart, if you price your book at 99 cents, you're going to sell more units than a higher price, but are you going to make more money with the lower priced unit, or are you going to make more money with the higher priced books? And so that's what we answer with the next chart. At what price are you going to earn the most money? Now again, the amount of money that you earn is going to be calculated based on the number of titles you sell times the royalty rate for every title that you sell. So some of the key findings. $1.99 and below underperforms. So what you see here in the data is we normalize the data. 100% equals the average of all of the different price points. So $1.99 is at 33%, which means it is 67% below the average performance in terms of the amount of money you're going to make on average. 99 cents is about 60% below the average. So if you price it $1.99 to 99 cents, you're going to underperform in terms of the amount of money that you can make on average. Now at 99 cents, we saw earlier that you still reach 3.9 times as many readers as you'll reach at a high price. And there's some value in pricing low to reach more readers. But I think that's pretty self-explanatory. These price bands underperform. So here's the interesting manifestation. Previously in the previous slide, I showed you how $3.99 was actually selling more units than $2.99. Well, it caused $3.99, this price band, to earn these authors 55% above average earnings at that price compared to the other price points. Now again, remember that this data could have been skewed by a few really big bestsellers. If in the next 12 months we get a massive bestseller, the next Sylvia Day or the next E.L. James coming to Smashwords, pricing at 99 cents and selling millions of books, it could skew all the data. But I think the general takeaway as we look at these price bands from $2.99 to $10 plus is that there's some variation, but not a tremendous amount of variation. So what does this mean? As an author, as a self-published author, you are the publisher. You are the one who's going to decide what your books are priced at. So with this knowledge of how price impacts the number of units that you're going to sell and the amount of money that you're going to earn, if you're given the choice to price a book at $10 plus or at $2.99 or $3.99, what is the best price to publish at? And the answer is pretty simple. The lower prices give you an advantage. We can take $2.99 and $10 plus as an example. They're both pretty much the same, 113%, 120%. So whether you price your book at $2.99 or $10.99, you're going to earn about the same amount of money. You're going to sell fewer units here, but you're going to earn about the same amount of money. But at $2.99, you're going to sell 4 times as many units as $10. This explains why self-published authors have a tremendous competitive advantage over traditionally published ebook authors, because you have the ability to price lower and yet still earn more money than a traditionally published author who is working with a publisher who's going to be and the publishers are going to be pricing their book up in this area where the price is too high. So at this lower price, you have an opportunity to reach 4 times as many readers and still make the same amount of money. Every time you sell a book, you're getting 2 benefits. You're getting the royalty from that book, but you're also getting a reader. And it's more important to get the reader, because a reader is a potential fan, a fan is a potential super fan, and a super fan is going to want to buy all of your books for the rest of your life. A super fan is going to follow you. They are going to tell all their friends. Well, actually, they're not just going to tell their friends to buy your book. They're going to command their friends to buy your book, because that's the way super fans work. So hopefully that's clear what this means. Price in this area, and you're going to build a platform faster than traditionally published authors. If you're a traditionally published author, this data might make you think twice before you sell the rights to your next book. If you look at the bestseller lists at any major retailer, you're going to see unknown self-published authors breaking out at low price points and building tremendous platforms, tremendous fan bases in a very short period of time. These are the authors who are going to be the New York Times best-selling lists, bestsellers 5 years from now, 10 years from now. And the authors who are stuck up at these high price points are going to lose ground to the next generation of indie authors who are pricing lower. All right, so that concludes this the survey results. Just share some final thoughts with you here. All data-driven publishing decisions, looking at our findings and making decisions about your book, are completely irrelevant and erroneous if you don't start with a great book. If your book is a piece of garbage and you make your title shorter and you make the book longer, it's not going to help you reach readers. We have a lot of books at Smashwords that are priced at free and get very few downloads because the book is not desirable to readers. It's all about the book. We have books at Smashwords that are great books and priced higher that sell really well. So start with the book. Your book is your best marketing. A quality book trumps everything else here. The numbers that we shared with you provide some hints at reader preferences. But I would caution you not to make publishing decisions based on a single finding in this survey or based on any finding in this survey. The purpose of this survey is to give you some additional knowledge, some additional clues as to how readers respond to these different quantitatively measurable aspects of your book. In this entire survey, we have no way of looking at book quality. So we're looking at the edges of books to see if other things make an impact. So use the data to make yourself more informed, but don't use this as the sole decision factor. If your book deserves 20,000 words, make it 20,000 words. If your book deserves 300,000 words, make it 300,000 words. If your title wants to have 15 words in it, make it 15 words in it. If your book description is best if it's 20 words, make it 20 words. So in the end, do your own thing. Do what's best for your book and for your readers. Remember that your book is immortal. You have the freedom to experiment over time. Think of all of these viral catalysts as different options to experiment. And if you approach it that way, and you continue experimenting, eventually you'll find the formula, the right mix of viral catalysts that help you reach more readers. I would definitely encourage you to read The Secrets to eBook Publishing Success to learn about other viral catalysts. So here are the 3 books that I've written. There's The Secrets to eBook Publishing Success. All 3 of these books are free. You can download them for free at any major ebook retailer. You can get them at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Sony, Kobo, Apple, Smashwords. So go to your favorite place, download them today. So in the Secrets book, we identify 30 best practices of the most commercially successful Smashwords authors. So that's where you'll learn professional publishing practices. In the book Marketing Guide, I identify 41 different marketing tips, things that you can do at no cost to you to market your book and to build your author platform. And then finally, the first ebook publishing book that I wrote, the Smashwords Style Guide. This book has been downloaded over 300,000 times. It's probably, for many people, it's the Bible of ebook formatting. This will teach you how to format and publish an ebook. The only tool you need is a word processor. It's about 60 pages long if you were to print it out, but it has a lot of pictures, so don't be intimidated by it. It's a really breezy read. So those are the 3 books I've written. Check them out. If you're not yet publishing with Smashwords and you're interested to learn more, here's a quick checklist of how you publish with Smashwords. First, sign up at smashwords.com, create a free account. Study the copious resources that we've produced for your benefit. Of course, there's the three guides that I just mentioned. We're developing this survey of this catalog of videos, this library of videos that you can access on YouTube. Tutorials. Most of the videos I'm producing are they're all based on presentations, workshops that I do at writers' conferences around the country and around the world. And we'll be producing other videos that you'll see appearing from time to time that are much shorter, looking at specific aspects of ebook publishing. So check them out. The more you learn about the publishing business and about e-publishing and about best practices, the more successful you're going to be as an author. Again, think back to the 3 legs of the stool. What do you need to become a successful author? You need the printing press, you need the access to distribution, and you need the knowledge of professional publishing. And these are the 3 things that we're always working to provide you at Smashwords. Once your book is formatted to the style guide, you simply upload it to Smashwords. Once you publish your book, stay connected with your fans. Engage with them in social media, on Facebook, on Twitter. Do whatever's comfortable with you, on your blog, on your website. Just stay connected with your fans. Your fans will inspire you and they will propel you forward in your career. And then get to work on your next book, because the best-selling authors write multiple books. So thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Here are my coordinates if you want to connect with me, if you want to follow me on Twitter. I'm at Mark Coker. I'm on Facebook. Subscribe to the Smashwords blog if you're not yet subscribed. If you go to blog.smashwords.com, you'll see over on the right-hand side an option to subscribe via email. And if you do that, you'll never miss another blog post from Smashwords again. I tend to blog about best practices. I blog about merchandising opportunities at the retailers, and I blog about successful Smashwords authors. And the other place you can go if you want to read more is Huffington Post. I've been a contributing writer there for 3 or 4 years now. I write about ebooks and the future of publishing. So huffingtonpost.com/Mark-Coker, and you'll see some of my posts there. I do 4 or 5 pieces a year for them. And that's it. If you enjoyed this video, please share it with a friend. And again, thank you very much for taking the time to learn about our survey, and I hope you found it valuable. Thanks.